Hello, everyone, and welcome to Staying Ahead of the Curve. I'm Jeff Snyder, Vice President, Senior Consultant with CAMAC Retirement Group, and we're here back in Washington, D.C. at the National Association of Government Defined Contribution Administrators Industry Roundtable. And I'm joined today by the Executive Director for the City of Los Angeles' Deferred Compensation Plan, Stephen Montagna. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And I should have said that you were also the current president of the National Association of Government Defined Contribution Administrators, so my apologies to you, but thanks for joining us.
Of course, thank you.
So before, I know what we try to do on the show is really provide a roadmap, and you've done some great work at the City of LA, and I want to get to that. But you're the current president of NAGDA, and I wonder if you might be able to talk to the audience about the importance of NAGDA, what NAGDA means to you, and the importance of your role.
NAGDA is such a special organization. In my job, I'm responsible also for working with benefit programs and our wellness program. And what's really interesting with those is that there is not the kind of national network and resource where peers are talking to each other and sort of being able to share resources. And what's always been so special about NAGDA is that it's such a wonderful community of industry partners, state and local government folks who are working with these plans, and they come year after year. You see them year after year. They have a commitment to working in this field, and I think that kind of energy and that kind of information sharing is what makes it so unique.
Yeah, there is really a camaraderie, and NAGDA just isn't about government defined contribution or government retirement plans. We were just talking to Polly Scott about some of the campaigns. I mean, it's about national awareness about retirement.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's the huge plus of working together is that we're able to say, hey, why are we doing these things on our own? How can we learn from each other? And then you actually apply that. And it's terrific.
Well, credit to the organization, and let's keep it going. And so to that end, in addition to your responsibilities as president, you're also the executive director of the Deferred Comp Plan. And you've done a lot of work around retirement readiness and financial wellness and overall wellness for individual participants. And I wonder if you could share with the audience some of the high-level milestones that you've accomplished over the last several years.
Sure. Well, I think the most important thing that we've done that's been a personal passion of mine is really trying to focus in on what is this retirement readiness thing? What does this actually mean? And to be able to quantify it and then to translate it in a way that makes it real and actually actionable for plan participants. So there's a lot happening within the industry around calculators and projections, and what we tried to do was to come up with something that was very precise, very specific, and that worked not only from sort of the underlying methodology and the way that we approached it, but more importantly as a communication tool to reframe it in a way that we believe is going to be most effective for plan participants.
And so this is actually really refreshing because the foundational elements of a defined contribution or a retirement plan are the plan design and then the investments. And so much of the conversation has been around those two items. And they're important, they're foundational, right? They're the bedrock by which everything else is built. But then I know the passion I can hear in your voice about communicating and educating. That is driving people into the plan, doing the right things, having the right behavior, getting them prepared. Because if they're not prepared to retire, that has an impact on your organization.
Oh yeah, and I think that just the most fundamental piece of it is, why are we in this business? Why are we doing what we're doing? Why do we want people to participate in these programs? It's for their future retirement income security. That's what they want. They want to know that what the future holds for them, and being able to put the pieces together for them, to help them put the pieces together is so important. So what we've tried to do is to take the defined benefit plan, the pension benefit, and the defined contribution plan, to put those pieces together and then to translate that into what does their future projected income look like relative to what they are projected to be making at the time that they retire. That's the essential piece of information that they need to know to make decisions now that can impact what that number looks like in the future.
And how do you define that? Is it defined on at a plan level, or is it defined for the individual?
Well, it's actually so the way that we've approached it is to say that we have this concept of lifestyle income, and that's really the gross income that you live off of after you have your primary reductions from your pay that you make into the pension plan, into the defined contribution plan. So let's say you make $100,000. You're putting 10% into the pension plan, and you're a great saver. You're putting 10% into the defined contribution plan. So you're living off of 80,000 gross, right? That's the target, and what we want to translate that and say to our participants and say, 100% of that number is actually, what that means is there's no reduction in your standard of living. And so what we're going to do is put the pieces together for you so that you can see that and see, are you at 90%? Are you on track for 90% or 95 or 100 or 120, and give them that number without asking a lot out of them to get to that number.
So it's measuring and benchmarking. What types of tools have you created, rolled out, that people can use? I think, we want to drill down. We want to provide the audience with a roadmap, and this is an example of a roadmap to success. So can you talk a little bit about some of the tools calculators that have been created?
Sure. So we created a custom calculator that solves for that 100% number, or whatever that lifestyle income replacement percentage is. That's part of our website now. Moving forward, we're going to integrate that into the web platform for the plan, so that the member, when they log into their account, that's the first thing they're going to see. And it's customized to the pension plan rules that we have. We actually have three different pension plans for three different populations within the city. Each of them have different rules, so those rules are plugged in automatically so that the number that the participant is getting is very precise.
And do they get a statement of some type annually that kind of brings in the pension benefit, the defined contribution, possibly Social Security, if they're Social Security eligible? Is that something that you're contemplating at least?
Well, we don't participate. We don't participate in Social Security. So the web is going to be, because that number can change all the time, and it's also designed to be interactive, so that people can, for example, change the sliders, and they can, show what the impact would be of either changing contribution amounts or going from Roth to pre-tax, or those kinds of changes. So it's not intended to be static. The other thing is we didn't want to be overly reliant on some type of a data feed that's coming from the retirement system, because that takes away some of the flexibility and kind of the dailiness of that experience. We want it to be something that people are engaging with much more frequently than every quarter.
And might also generate unnecessary phone calls to the wrong provider, et cetera.
Right, yeah. So we considered that kind of approach, but we decided what we want is to create something that can be launched in the simplest way, and from a participant perspective, in the way that's most responsive and customizable for the individual.
So that's what's been accomplished. What are you thinking about? I mean, there's obviously phases of doing things like this, and you can't get everything all at once. As though in a perfect world we'd get there, you'd have it all done. But what's the board? What are you thinking about as the ED, the executive director, and the board? What's being contemplated going forward in terms of engagement?
Well, I think at least in my view, where the industry is headed, where certainly we're headed in the city of LA, is a much more rigorous approach to setting goals and being able to try out strategies and then to measure their success. Like we're trying to distill what are the most essential things that truly meaningfully tell us whether people are being successful. And then there needs to be accountability. I mean, there's when I was kind of growing up with our program, I think there was I can kind of remember the mindset of, well, they didn't read the material. It's like it's their fault. Like that's why, or they took too long to join the plan. And I think that's that's really old school. It's not where we're at anymore. Where we're at now is our job is to engage, to get people's attention, and to influence behavior, so that we can have participants achieve the outcomes that represent success.
I was going to say, because if we don't bring those people in and they're not part of the plan, they actually, that lack of participation, that lack of diversification, that lack of retirement preparedness also continues to impact us societally if they're not prepared. It impacts your organization because people can't retire on time, and then impacts people that are coming up the food chain, I guess, if lack of bad word choice, but coming into the organization to do work and moving up through the organization.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's part of taking care of our workforce, and it's also, like I said, creating that accountability for us and administering the programs and really being able to drive success.
And are you integrating it? So oftentimes organizations have health and wellness programs. How are you integrating that in terms of engagement with like financial wellness and health and wellness? I mean, health is really, there's healthcare in retirement, so they kind of all fit together. Are you thinking about it in those terms as well?
Yeah, it's really fascinating since I'm not only overseeing the benefit programs that we offer to the civilian workforce, but we're also creating a wellness program and really trying to figure out what are the elements of a successful wellness program. And we're actually learning from the deferred compensation plan experience, which is that what works at the end of the day is the one-on-one. We have about 40,000 personalized contacts with our local representatives, with our participants every year. That is a huge number. I mean, our total participant population is 43,000.
Wow. So
the fact that we're talking on the phone, meeting with them in person, going to meetings, and engaging at that level is what I think has led to the success of the program and the actual outcomes. Now we're actually trying to translate that and to integrate that kind of a concept into health, into how we're going to grow the wellness program. In my view, it has to be very personal, very much one-on-one. That's where people feel safe. That's where you can influence behavior. Just throwing out stuff on a website, sending them information in the mail, giving them information by itself is never going to be enough. You have to make people feel safe, and they will feel safe when they're talking with somebody they trust.
So I think somewhere Dr. Shlomo Ben-Artzi is probably smiling and nodding. Hopefully he's watching the show. Shifting gears a little bit, and I know this is a great topic, and we'll come back to that. But administration, I'll probably get a hate mail talking about administration, but I think it's important because how efficient the plan operates administratively impacts cost, and it impacts service. And I'm wondering your perspective on administration and some of the things that you may be doing or thinking about in order to automate the program, make it easier to service people.
Right.
And help with that engagement, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, well, this again, the way that this relates to that participant experience is in how did you build the process? How did you build the form? What was that based on? What drove that? Was the sort of these needs, these sort of back office processing needs? Was it that your most important objective was to make sure that it passed the compliance review? Those are important things. They're certainly always going to be part of the mix, but in the hierarchy of what's important, what needs to be at the top is what is the impact on the participant. So if the form is confusing because the compliance said it needs to be this way and the back office processing center says it needs to be laid out this way, that's not going to be effective from the participant's point of view. They're not going to understand. They're going to make bad decisions because they don't have the information presented to them in the way that they need it. And I'll say, quite frankly, our challenge is bigger now than it was 5 years ago, and it's going to be even more challenging 5 years from now. People read less. They want information, need information in much simpler terms. So we have to adapt. We're going to have to think about, and test whether these processes and administration and forms and confirmations and loans information, all of that, is it working or is it not? Are people engaging with it, or are they just not even paying attention?
And to your point, I mean, we have a lot of jargon. I mean, from investment jargon, compliance jargon, and so that needs to be tackled. And really, it's about delivery of service, and people consume information in different ways. So people may have a phone app that they want to use, and so they want it presented in a certain way. And as we talked about earlier, that how we communicate with people and how we drive results, and how we drive results is actually going to be an impact on all of us societally and get people towards retirement. So I think how do you plan to tackle that? Is that something where you just work with the service provider or providers and begin to look at each of the processes? Maybe you look at money in or money out, and you say, how can we do that better? Is it a reform of current administrative processes?
Right. It's ongoing. It's an ongoing challenge. It's ongoing reinvention, and it needs to be grounded in actual participant experience. So that's the piece that I think we have some catch up to do. Kind of thinking across the industry. So I think before anybody finalizes a form anywhere for anything, get it before some participant focus group and let them ask the questions and find out where are they interpreting or misinterpreting. Don't ask the plan sponsors. They'll give you your opinion. They'll give you their opinions, but they're just as much in the jargon and sort of like in the flow of things. Every time we have done a focus group in our plan, we have always radically altered what we thought was great stuff. So that tells you your best judge is always going to be the customer.
So not to put you on the spot, but you're the president of NAGDA. Will we have some certain breakout sessions at the conference coming up in September, the annual conference, on these topics? I know you're an innovator, a reformer. Maybe that's not the right word, but you're someone you're very passionate about this. Will we see some of these types of breakout sessions at the conference?
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that we introduced last year we're going to grow for this year's conference is the what we call the discussion deck exercise, where there was sort of there were cards. People could pull cards and talk about issues, and that was the most popular by far of all the sessions that we did. And the reason for that is because it gets people around a table brainstorming and challenging each other to think about things. That's creating the opportunity for that kind of creative exchange of ideas. There's no better use of our time at that conference.
And it really, it makes it three-dimensional. I mean, you're interacting, you're involved, and it really changes and evolves the conference format.
Yeah.
So I want to shift gears, if I may. We're in Washington, D.C. We talked earlier to Polly Scott, your colleague, about some visitations on the Hill and things that are in top of mind for NAGDA. I wonder if you could share your perspective with some of those visits and things that you're talking about. She was very complimentary, for example, to Senators Enzi and Cardin about the National Save for Retirement Week. Just want to get your perspective as you see it.
Yes, I mean it's. I think the visits were very positive, very productive. I think that we were able to share with them a vision of what we think can help to enhance participants to enhance participant success. I think my impression is that there's a lot of receptivity to that. I think it's clear to me that NAGDA is a very trusted organization in terms of really advocating for its members, and by members I mean actual plan participants, and grounding all of that in everything that we say, and really look, we're just trying to help them to get to that objective, which is we want them to be successful and safe in retirement.
And there are best practices that can be utilized by other sectors of the economy too. It's not just government. There are people who work in the corporate marketplace, or people that work in tax exempt or not-for-profit that can benefit from what NAGDA is talking about. So it's not just isolated to government.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, as an example, we talked a lot about Roth and sort of, you know, some of the disparities in how Roth assets are treated when they're contributory within the defined contribution plan versus IRAs. Not intentional, I think. I think it's just a matter of sort of how the legislation evolved. But being able to equalize those really, from the participants' point of view, it just makes sense, because people don't like it when you call something by the same name and you have a different set of rules here and a different set of rules there. You know, any way that we can make it simpler and help them to maximize the opportunities for those resources, the better.
Yeah, it's taking a complex circumstance and making it easier and consumable. Well, Stephen, thank you so much. We're looking forward to seeing you again at the annual conference, and best of luck until we see you in September.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks.